Hi, I'm James Ross.
And this is UK Ride Review, a series of rollercoaster reviews for the Ride Guide where I look at the best and worst of British rides and all the others in between.
To kick the series off, here's one of the most popular rides in the country, Nemesis at Alton Towers.
The year is 1994. This year, Blackpool Pleasure Beach opened the terrifying, monstrous Pepsi Max Big One. Also this year, Drayton Manor opened Shockwave. Luckily, Alton Towers didn't miss out on the fun. They pulled out all the stops to bring in a new ride to make guests flock to the park. John Wardley worked on the design of the ride and B&M were contacted about their inverted coaster model.
Unfortunately, Alton Towers have neighbours that like to complain, so they have measures in place which stops them from building anything you can see outside the park, which, as John Wardley puts it, forces them to be creative. Under this forced creativity, Alton Towers blasted a hole in the ground and built Nemesis. This means that the ride stayed hidden from view, but also they had some height to play around with. But anyway, enough history, on with the review.
As the monorail takes you to the entrance at the wrong end of the park, you get some nice overhead views of the ride.
To ride Nemesis, you'll have to trek all the way back to Forbidden Valley, where it takes centre stage. Now, one of the first things you notice about the ride is the sound it makes. I mean, just listen to this and tell me it's not awesome. Of course, the noise does give neighbours more legal ammo to hurl in Alton Towers' direction.
You'll also notice the theming. The station is a giant alien, there are fake bits of tracks supposedly being consumed by the alien, and let's not forget the rivers of blood, or more accurately, the river of diluted cherryade.
The overall image is supposed to intimidate you, and to some extent it's a success. But of course, if you don't know the backstory, you may be slightly confused as to why there's a large alien parked in the middle of a crater.
There isn't scenery adorning every single surface, but there's enough to give the area a good atmosphere.
Onto the queue. Fortunately, we don't spend long here considering the ride's popularity, because Nemesis chucks trains out at a storming rate. This is thanks to the speedy batching and restraint checking that happens in the station. If you are unfortunate to have to wait in the full queue, then this might not be such a bad thing either, because, and as much as it pains me to say this, Nemesis has a well-designed queue.
You start by weaving into the trees away from the ride, and then you catch a glimpse of the lift hill drop-off. As you work your way through the queue, you get closer and closer to the ride, building anticipation until near the end you stop right next to the loop, where trains fly towards you at 50 miles an hour.
And then once you get into the station, you have the Nemesis theme music, a really well-composed atmospheric piece which accentuates the ride's dark ambience.
Nemesis is viewed by some as being one of the best rides in the world, so let's see the layout. The train begins by gathering speed down into the first inversion, which is a corkscrew. It's surprisingly forceful, but not as forceful as what follows, which is a downward helix, which really tries to rip you out of your seat before throwing you over the station in a zero-G roll, almost missing it. After a brief turnaround, the train dives down into a vertical loop. This is also very powerful. Just before the ride finishes, a surprise corkscrew flips the train over at speed. And that's Nemesis, a short layout but not lacking in energy.
For me, there are three highlights.
There's the uber-powerful helix, then there's the near miss over the station where riders curl into a fetal position, and finally the surprise corkscrew, which really whips the train round and can catch new riders off guard.
There are a few dead spots during the ride, but these are mainly used for turning the train round, rather than just because the designers ran out of ideas.
The star quality that makes Nemesis unique is undoubtedly the pacing. You know the drill with roller coasters: train falls down, drop, riders scream, train gets slower, ride gets boring. Okay, so most rides get away with that. Nemesis's fastest point is right here before the loop. It gets faster throughout the circuit, hence never really feels slow.
My main critique of Nemesis is that it's rough, but it's 16 years old as well, so you can kind of forgive it for that somewhat.
So this is the part of the review where I rate the ride in 3 categories and overall. First, visual appeal and theme.
I think the theming on Nemesis is fantastic, and the scenery and the setting just create a wonderfully intense atmosphere, so I'm giving it 9.
Design and operation.
This ride was very well planned for the space given. The ride interactions with the queue work brilliantly to build anticipation, and the scenery interactions on the ride make the ride even better. And thanks to the prompt dispatching of trains on this ride, you won't have to wait too long compared to some others at Alton Towers. So I'm going to give it a 9.
The physical ride. The layout of Nemesis is very well put together, producing a mixture of fast transitions and strong G-forces. There are a few moments of roughness, but it's worth it.
9.
Nemesis is a first-class ride. Some say it's overrated, but I personally think it earns a high ranking for its design. It's certainly not perfect, but all of its elements seem to work together extremely well. And for that, I give Nemesis 9 out of 10.